Here we have two GMTs, the Seiko 5 SSK003 and the Wise Damascus ADX True GMT. I received some comments asking for this comparison, so here it is. Both watches can be found under the $1,000 mark, and the two I have here share some similar design elements, most notably in their bezels, resembling the famous Batman color scheme. But they do have quite a few differences between them, which I hope to highlight. The Seiko is the larger watch at 42.5mm, but it does have a shorter lug-to-lug of 46mm, making its size more manageable. The Wise is in that sweet spot range in comparison at 40mm, but has a longer lug-to-lug of 47.75mm. However, it is slimmer at 12.4mm. The ADX GMT also doubles the water resistance of the SSK003, with a rating of 200 meters and a screw-down crown, which the Seiko lacks, but their power reserves are quite similar, with only an hour between them. Taking a look at the dials, both watches feature sunburst finishes in different colors, blue for the Seiko and black for the Wise, and they both do a great job at elevating the appearance of each timepiece. Both watches also have different hour marker layouts, with a rounded circular form on the SSK003 that will be familiar to a lot of Seiko fans, and a rectangular look on the Wise GMT, which gives it a more aggressive look in comparison. Overall, the Wise GMT includes more intricate details in its dial elements, with multiple facets present on its hands and indices, and also has a ribbed 24-hour ring towards the center. The Seiko, on the other hand, is simpler. It has polished hour markers and hands with a more natural integration of a 24-hour scale in the form of a chapter ring, and it does feature red GMT text, which matches nicely with its broader GMT hand. The Seiko has a lot more color than the Wise, and it's a predominantly blue watch. However, I find it to be the more subtle choice between the two. Both the bezel and dial on the Seiko have a dark hue of blue, and the execution also makes them blend in with each other due to the way they shift colors at different angles. While the Wise only incorporates blue on the bezel and GMT hand, its integration is effective, standing out a lot more than that of the Seiko because its blue components are solid and vibrant, so they maintain a consistent shade in most lighting situations. The bezel materials play a huge part in this visual difference, as they essentially provide the foundation for their respective effects and influence the way their colors are seen. The Seiko features an insert protected by a hardlex crystal, affording it its metallic sheen, and the Wise opts for a ceramic insert, which contributes to that solid pigment. These differences in material also mean differences in scratch-resistant properties, where the ceramic of the Wise will be much more resilient. However, I've yet to scratch the hardlex on the Seiko, and this also goes for their crystals, where the sapphire on the Wise is also superior in scratch resistance versus the hardlex on the Seiko, but again, I've yet to scratch the hardlex. In terms of bezel function, I find the Wise feels much better and easier to use. It has very solid tactile feedback, especially for a GMT with 72 audible clicks, and has very little play between each point. The Seiko, on the other hand, just slides with no positions to stop at, so it's not as satisfying to turn. But it does dodge the infamous Seiko misalignment issues, as you are able to fine-tune the alignment yourself. The placement of the date windows do differ as well, with a 3 o'clock position on the Seiko and 6 o'clock on the Wise, and just like its hour markers, the Wise features a faceted frame for its date window, whereas the Seiko has a simple cutout which works well with its Cyclops lens for a clearer view. The Wise will have a more symmetrical look to it as a result, but I am a fan of Cyclops lenses, so I prefer the date on the Seiko a lot more because of it. When it comes to their cases, this is where the differences really take shape. The Seiko has an iconic architecture, one that takes inspiration from the SKX and really does showcase Seiko's DNA with its 4 o'clock crown. It's round and curvy with circular brushing on the top of the lugs and polished sides and crown guards. but the finishing here is just okay. Now, when we take a look at the Ys, we see a drastically different construction. It's made of 904L stainless steel. It's angular and sharp with a multitude of facets along the case and its 3 o'clock crown, cohesive with its indices, and exhibits clean transitions between the brushing and polishing. It has a sleek yet aggressive appearance that contrasts the Seiko's softer look, and it's definitely the more modern design. The case on the Ys is flashier and captures light incredibly well with its alternating surfaces, while the case on the Seiko has a more tool-oriented approach, straightforward and subtle in its finish. Both watches have display case backs, so we can see into their movements, and while they're not the most decorated, the Ys does edge it out with some rotor motif and striping. While they're both GMTs, the functions of each movement will be different. The 4R34 of the Seiko allows independent movements of the GMT hand without needing to change the hours or minutes, and offers a quick set date on top of that for efficient date changes. The Miyota 9075 in the Ys is a true GMT movement, so the hour hand will be the hand that rotates in the first position, but this also means you will need to rotate the same hand to change the date, so it isn't as quick. To adjust the GMT hand on the Ys, pull out the crown all the way and move all 3 hands to your desired position, focusing on the GMT hand and minutes, then push it back 1 time to readjust the hour. The 9075 caliber in the Ys has a better accuracy rating of -10 to +30 seconds a day against the 4R34's -35 to +45 seconds a day, and it's generally a more reliable movement, but both tend to perform better than their specified accuracy, and both can be easily serviced by most watchmakers at an affordable price. So while the 9075 is better overall, the difference isn't anything astronomical. The bracelets of the two pair nicely with their cases, and they too are different, with a 5-link setup on the Seiko versus a 3-link setup on the Ys. The SSK003's bracelet this time is the busier bracelet. It has curved links with polished centers, and it helps to balance out the more conservative case. The bracelet on the Ys is simpler. Brushed flanks with polished center links, and their flat shape also balances out the faceted case. Of the two, I think the Jubilee of the Seiko is the flashier choice, and I find it suits the bezel layout of a GMT a lot better than the 3-link design of the Ys. With that being said, the fit and finish of the ADX GMT's bracelet is much better, just like the case, and it also includes a lot more features. Here we get quick release spring bars versus your ordinary spring bar system, a built-in toolless link removal mechanism versus push pins, a solid milled clasp versus a stamped clasp on the Seiko, and 8 on-the-fly micro adjustment points versus the regular 4-point pin micro adjustments. The Seiko does, however, have a secondary closure for security on the clasp, which is something I actually appreciate, but it is only a minor point. On the wrist, both watches are a comfortable wear, but the Ys does wear slightly better. Its dimensions make it more suitable for a majority of wrists out there, and the curvature of the case makes it follow the curve of the wrist easier. The Seiko feels great. Its shorter lug-to-lug makes it more manageable, and the bracelet does feel better compared to the 3-link bracelets, but it does feel top-heavy due to the thickness and size. When I wear the two, I do notice the bulge of the watch head on the SSK003, and the Ys just sits a lot closer to the wrist for a more slender look and feel. Crown positions have never really been an issue for me, but if that's something that bothers you, the 4 o'clock position on the Seiko does allow for more room to play with. Individually though, I don't really have problems with either one, and I can wear them all day without any complaints. Now the Seiko does carry a lower retail price of $475 at the time of this video, compared to the Ys GMT's $1,350 price tag. You can say the Wise is often discounted to $760 on their websites, but the same can be said for the Seiko, as it too can be frequently found at discounted prices from authorized retailers, so the gap doesn't really change. And with the price gap in mind, I think the upgrades you get from the Wise justifies the higher price tag. Overall, I think the Wise packs a lot more in its package than the Seiko. It simply has better specs all around in a size that complements a lot more wrist sizes and uses premium materials. The finishing is better, with far more intricacies than the Seiko, and it's loaded with a bunch of toolless features. It's evidently the more refined choice between the two in terms of its execution, and it shows. However, the SSK003 has that Seiko charm to it. It has an iconic shape, and while it's not as nicely finished, it feels a lot more tool-oriented and will hide scratches a lot easier than the ADX GMT. The SSK003 also has the Seiko name behind it, which is something to consider, regardless of your views on brand names, and with it being the more affordable option, it still presents a solid choice in the sub $1,000 GMT space. But which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments and let me know your thoughts on either watch. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more watch content. I'll see you in the next one.